The galaxy was vast and full of danger. Many species ruled the stars, but none were as feared or respected as the Zalari. They had power, weapons, and ships that could destroy entire fleets. They were known across the spiral arms as the strongest race in space. One day, a Zalari warship named the Vorthan was traveling through a quiet part of space. It was on a mission to map old ruins left behind by a lost civilization. The crew scanned the area with their sensors when something strange showed up. Floating in the dark was a ship, damaged and silent. It was small compared to Zalari ships, but its shape was unfamiliar. The energy readings from it were odd. Some parts of it seemed dead while others pulsed like a heartbeat. Captain Leora stood on the bridge of the Vorthan. She looked at the screen showing the strange vessel. Her first officer, Talon, spoke first. "We have never seen this design before." Leora nodded. "Send a team over. I want to know what we're looking at." A small group of Zalari soldiers and techs boarded the wrecked ship. They moved carefully through the halls. Lights flickered. Some systems still worked. There were signs of battle, burn marks on the walls, broken glass, and dried stains on the floor. They found the command room and searched for data logs. After some work, they recovered a file. The voice that played back was rough and tired. "This is Captain Daniel Hayes of the USS Colossus. If anyone finds this, know that we did everything we could." The log continued. It told of a battle against unknown enemies. The humans had been outnumbered and outgunned, but they fought hard. One human soldier held off an entire squad so others could escape. The Zalari listened in silence. They had heard stories of humans before. They knew they were primitive, not even part of the galactic community yet. But this log showed something else: bravery, sacrifice, and strength. Back on the Vorthan, Leora watched the playback again. She asked her science officer, "Who are these humans?" No one had an answer. What they did know was that this ship had survived impossible odds. It had faced death and still floated in space like a ghost. And if one ship could do that, what could the rest of the species do? Leora turned to her crew. "Find out where this ship came from," she said. "I want to meet the ones who built it." The search for the truth had begun. The Zalari techs worked hard to understand the human log they had found. It was not easy. The language was strange and full of slang they did not know. But slowly they began to learn. The voice of Captain Daniel Hayes played again and again. He talked about a battle near a planet called Earth. His ship had been damaged but not destroyed. His crew had fought with everything they had. One part of the log stood out. It spoke of a soldier named Jason Reed. He was not a pilot or a commander, just a regular fighter. But during the battle, he saved the lives of many others. Hayes said, "Jason held a hallway for 7 minutes against 8 hostiles. 7 minutes doesn't sound like much, but it gave the rest of us time to escape. He knew he wouldn't make it out, but he did it anyway." The Zalari listened to those words with growing respect. They had seen many species fight. Some were strong, some were smart, but few would give their lives so others could live. Leora watched the logs with her officers. She asked, "How many humans were on this ship?" Talon checked the data. "About 200, maybe a little more." "And how many survived?" she asked. There was silence before Talon answered. "We don't know. There are no life signs now." They kept working. They found more logs. They showed how humans trained, how they built their ships, and how they never stopped trying even when things looked bad. One log showed a man named Kyle Bennett fixing a broken engine with parts from a kitchen fridge. Another showed a woman named Lauren Cruz flying a damaged shuttle through enemy fire. Every log told a story of struggle and strength. Leora finally stood up and said, "This species is not weak. They are not advanced like us, but they are dangerous in their own way." Talon looked at her. "Dangerous how?" She pointed at the screen. "They do not stop. They take what they have and use it. They find a way forward even when there is no hope." Talon thought for a moment. "So you think we should look for them?" "Yes," Leora said. "We need to see what they are capable of. If one ship can do this, what can an entire world of them do?" The Zalari made their decision. They would go to Earth, they would watch, they would learn. And maybe, just maybe, they would understand why humans were more dangerous than they first seemed. The Zilari ship Vorthen jumped through space, following the coordinates from the human log. They arrived near a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. It was not impressive by galactic standards. No energy shields, no orbital weapons, no signs of advanced life. From orbit, the Zilari scanned the planet. They expected to see big cities flying in space or ships moving between moons. Instead, they saw smoke rising from the surface. Fighting. War. "This is Earth?" Talon asked, looking at the screens. "Yes," Leora said. "And it seems chaotic." They watched as humans fought each other on land, sea, and air. Tanks rolled across fields. Planes dropped bombs. Ships fired at each other far from shore. But what surprised the Zilari most was how the humans kept going. Even when they were hurt, even when their weapons broke, they did not stop. They built new ones. They made plans. They led others forward. One drone captured video of a group of soldiers crossing a broken bridge under heavy fire. They had no support, no air cover, just old rifles and dirt on their faces. Yet they moved forward, step by step. A young Zilari analyst named Vera studied the footage. "They are not using any known military tactics," she said. "But they keep winning anyway." Leora watched silently. "They adapt," she said. "Fast. Faster than any species we have seen." Talon looked at her. "You think that's why their ship lasted so long?" "Yes," Leora said. "They don't wait for perfect tools, they use what they have, and they never give up." More data came in. They found videos made by humans for fun. Some showed them climbing mountains, diving deep into oceans, flying into space with rockets that barely worked. "They push themselves," Vera said. "Always." Leora nodded. "They are not like us. We build power. They find it inside themselves." Talon asked, "Should we make contact?" "Not yet," Leora said. "We need to understand more. If this is what they do to each other, imagine what they could do to enemies of the galaxy." So, the Zilari kept watching. They saw pain, yes, but also strength, hope, leadership. And slowly they began to understand. Humans were not strong because of their tech. They were strong because they refused to stop trying, no matter what. The Zilari made their move. They picked a small island on Earth where humans had a military base. It was far from big cities, so not many would see them land. The Vorthen came down slowly, its huge shape glowing as it touched the ground. The humans were shocked. They had never seen anything like it. Within minutes, soldiers arrived in trucks, guns ready but unsure what to do. From the ship stepped Captain Leora, flanked by two Zilari guards. She looked around. The humans stared back. One officer walked forward. His name was Major Carl Bennett. He wore a green uniform and carried a sidearm. He raised his hand slowly. "Can you understand me?" he asked. Leora tilted her head. Then, through a translator device, she said, "Yes." Bennett nodded. "Then tell me who you are." She told him they were explorers, not conquerors, that they had found something of his kind in space and wanted to learn more. "You found a human ship?" Bennett asked, surprised. Leora showed him a screen with images of the USS Colossus. "We want to know who built this and why it fought so hard." Bennett studied the image. He recognized the design. "That's one of ours," he said. "But we thought it was lost." They talked for hours. At first, the humans were tense. They didn't trust the Zilari, but the aliens didn't act like enemies. They asked questions, listened, and even laughed at some of the stories. Later, the Zilari were taken to the base. There, they saw how humans lived. They watched soldiers train, eat, and joke around. One young soldier, named Jake Harper, showed off by doing push-ups while talking nonstop. Vera, the Zilari analyst, whispered to Talon, "Do they ever stop moving?" Talon shook his head. "Not if they can help it." At night, Leora sat with Bennett near a fire. He asked, "Why did you come here?" She looked at the stars. Because we saw a ship that should have been destroyed, yet it survived. Because of the humans inside. Bennett smiled. Yeah, we don't give up easy. Leora turned to him. I think I'm starting to understand why. Back on the Vorthen, the Zalari shared notes. They had learned more than they expected. Humans were not just tough. They were smart, fast learners and worked well in teams. One thing stood out most. When things got bad, they didn't break. They pushed harder, and that made them dangerous, not just to enemies, but to the whole galaxy. After days of talks and meetings, the Zalari proposed something new. They wanted to test what they had learned, not in war, but in hardship. They invited a small human team to join them on a mission far from Earth. The goal was simple: retrieve a lost Zalari probe near a neutron star. It was a dangerous trip, but not a combat mission. Leora believed this would show what humans could really do when things went wrong. She picked 5 humans for the job. Among them was Jake Harper, the young soldier who had impressed the Zalari with his energy and humor. Also joining were 2 engineers, a medic, and a pilot named Kyle Bennett, the brother of Major Carl Bennett. They boarded a Zalari scout ship called the Shinari. The crew was mixed, half Zalari and half human. At first there was tension. The humans were loud, always asking questions and making jokes. The Zalari were quiet, serious, used to following orders without question. But as the journey went on, they started to understand each other better. The humans worked fast, fixed things with tools they made themselves, and never seemed to get tired. How are you not resting? Vera asked Jake one day. He shrugged. Boredom's worse than tired. When they reached the neutron star, things went bad fast. A sudden gravitational wave hit the ship. Alarms blared. Systems failed. The Shinari was pulled off course and crash-landed on a nearby moon. There were no enemies, no weapons, just cold ground and broken machines. Some Zalari panicked. They had never been in a situation like this. Their tech had always saved them before. But the humans didn't panic. They got to work. Kyle took charge of repairs. Jake built shelters from wreckage. The engineers found ways to reroute power. Even the medic helped carry supplies. Leora watched in silence. She saw how the humans lifted each other up. They laughed, even when they hurt. They pushed forward, even when there was no clear path. After 3 days, the ship was fixed enough to call for help. But more importantly, the Zalari now understood something big. Humans did not wait for things to be perfect. They made do. They led. They inspired. And that made them strong. Not because of weapons or ships, because they never stopped trying. Even when everything else failed, they still fought. With hope. Back on the Vorthen, the Zalari scientists studied everything they had, learned. They looked at the human ship again. They checked its design, its layout, and how it had survived so long in battle. What they found surprised them. The ship was not built to win easily. It was built to survive. Every part had backups. Every system could be fixed by hand if needed. Even the walls were made to hold up under fire. Leora stood in the science lab as Vera explained what they had found. This ship, Vera said, was made for war. But not just any war. A war where things go wrong. Leora nodded. Humans. Expect the worst. Yes, Vera said. And they plan for it. Look here. She pointed to a screen showing the ship's engine room. They added extra armor, but not just for protection. It also helps the ship fly longer if parts are damaged. Talon walked in and joined them. He held a small data chip. I've been studying the logs again, he said. Especially the ones from Captain Hayes. He played a new clip. In it, Hayes was talking to his crew before a big battle. We might not make it out, Hayes said. But if we do our job, someone else will. That's all that matters. Leora watched him speak, then turned to Talon. They don't fight for victory alone. They fight for each other, Talon agreed. They know they can die, but they still go forward. Vela added, their strength is not just in their bodies or weapons, it's in their minds. They believe they can win, even when they can't. Leora thought about the crash on the moon. How the humans didn't panic. How they worked together without being told. How they made the Zalari feel like they could do anything too. She realized something big. Humans were not dangerous because they were strong. They were dangerous because they never gave up, even when they were hurt, even when they were scared, even when they were alone. They kept going because they believed someone else would live because of it. Leora left the lab and went to her quarters. She sat down and started writing a report. The title was simple, Why Humans Are Dangerous. Inside, she wrote everything she had learned, about their ships, their minds, their hearts, and one line stood out more than the rest. A human does not ask if something can be done. They ask how fast they can do it. And that made all the difference. Leora stood before the Zalari, High Council. She had returned to their homeworld after months of study, travel, and thought. Behind her, large screens showed images. Earth, human ships, battle logs, and video clips of soldiers laughing, fighting, and leading. The council was silent as they watched. They had heard stories before about humans, but now they saw proof. Leora spoke clearly. We have studied them, we have tested them, and now we understand. One elder asked, And what do you believe we should do with this knowledge? She answered, We must decide if we will keep them out of our war or bring them into them. A murmur spread through the room. Some Zalari looked worried, others curious. Talon stood beside Leora. He added, Humans are not like us. They do not wait for perfect weapons or full support. They act, they adapt, and they never stop trying. Vela stepped forward too. In battle, they inspire each other. Even in fear, they lead, and they make those around them stronger. The council debated for hours. Some feared that humans were too wild, too unpredictable. Others saw their value. Finally, the head of the council spoke. If they are as strong as you say, then perhaps it is time the galaxy saw what they can do. The decision was made. The Zalari would open formal contact with Earth, not just for peace, but for war, because a new enemy had been growing in the core far stars, one that threatened all known space. And the Zalari now believed that the only way to win was to fight beside the humans. Back on Earth, word came through secret channels. Reports of alien ships, of messages sent from the stars. In a small town near the ocean, a young man named Kyle sat on his porch. He looked up at the sky and smiled. He had always felt something big was coming. Now, he knew it was real. The galaxy had noticed them, not because of their tech, not because of power, but because of who they were. They were humans, and they did not back down, even from the stars.